Okay. Chapter 18, I believe. Hmm, okay. Angels visit Abram. The Lord appeared again to Abram while he was camped near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. One day about noon, as Abram was sitting at the entrance to his tent, he suddenly noticed three men standing nearby. He got up and ran to meet them, welcoming them by bowing low to the ground. "My lord," he said, "if it pleases you, stop here for a while. Rest in the shade of this tree while my servants get some water to wash your feet. Let me prepare some food to refresh you. Please stay a while before continuing on your journey." "All right," they said. "Do as you have said." So Abraham ran back to the tent and said to Sarah, "Quick, get 3 measures of your best flour and bake some bread." Then Abraham ran out to the herd and chose a fat calf and told a servant to hurry and butcher it. When the food was ready, he took some cheese, curds, and milk and the roasted meat, and he served it to the men. As they ate, Abraham waited on them there beneath the trees. "Where is Sarah, your wife?" they asked him. "In the tent," Abraham replied. Then one of them said, "About this time next year I will return, and your wife Sarah will have a son." Now Sarah was listening to this conversation from the tent nearby, and since Abraham and Sarah were both very old, Sarah was long past the age of having children. She laughed silently to herself. "How could a worn out woman like me have a baby?" she thought. "And when my master, my husband, is also so old." Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Why did she say, 'Can an old woman like me have a baby?' Is anything too hard for the Lord?" About a year from now, just as I told you, I will return, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she denied that she had laughed. But he said, "That is not true. You did laugh." Then the men got up from their meal and started on toward Sodom. Abraham went with them part of the way. "Should I hide my plan from Abraham?" the Lord asked. "For Abraham will become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. I have singled him out so that he will direct his sons and their families to keep the way of the Lord and to do what is right and just. Then I will do for him all that I have promised." So the Lord told Abraham, "I have heard that the people of Sodom and Gomorrah are extremely evil, and everything they do is wicked. I'm going down to see whether or not these reports are true. Then I will know." The two other men went on toward Sodom, but the Lord remained. But the Lord remained with Abraham for a while. Abraham approached him and said, "Will you destroy both innocent and guilty alike? Suppose you find 50 innocent people there within the city. Will you still destroy it and not spare it for their sakes?" "Surely you wouldn't do such a thing, destroying the innocent with the guilty. Why, you would be treating the innocent and the guilty exactly the same. Surely you wouldn't do that. Should not the judge of all the earth do what is right?" And the Lord replied, "If I find 50 innocent people in Sodom, I will spare the entire city for their sake." Then Abraham spoke again. "Since I have begun, let me go on and speak further to my Lord. Even though I am but dust and ashes, suppose there are only 45. Will you destroy the city for lack of 5? And the Lord said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45. Then Abraham pressed this request further, "Suppose there are only 40. And the Lord replied, "I will not destroy it if there are 40. Please don't be angry, my Lord," Abraham pleaded. "Let me speak. Suppose only 30 are found." And the Lord replied, "I will not destroy it if there are 30. Then Abraham said, "Since I have dared to speak to the Lord, let me continue. Suppose there are only 20. And the Lord said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of the 20. Finally Abraham said, "Lord, please do not get angry. I will speak but only once more. Suppose only 10 are found there." And the Lord said, "Then for the sake of the 10, I will not destroy it." The Lord went on his way, when he had finished his conversation with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his tent. And that's chapter 18. Excuse me. At reading chapter 18, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what is this? Like, this is kind of seemingly another version of 17. In 17, you know, um, God told Abraham that he would have a son, and Abraham laughed or whatever to himself, and you know, and you know, when he spoke to God, it was obvious his disbelief or whatever, and I mean, basically, almost insulted God with that whole, yes, may Ishmael enjoy your special blessing. God didn't say nothing about no Ishmael. He purposely said through Sarah. I mean, it's almost a smack in God's face to say, you know, I mean, God says, Sarah's gonna have a baby, da 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 da, and you turn around and be like, yeah, Hagar's baby will be blessed. God ain't say nothing about that. So smack in his face. Anyway, um, and yet for whatever reason, we mainly always heard the story via chapter 18, where Sarah laughed or whatever, and then she's called on it, even though she kind of did the same thing that Abraham did in the chapter before. Also, it was just kind of weird, going back to 17, how it's like he's making a covenant with him all over again. It's like, what was the covenant in the first place for, with the cut animals and the pot and the smoke, the fire and the smoke or whatever going through the animals or whatever, and saying like, look, and you won't be able to count the number. You can't count the stars. That's how your descendants. Oh, excuse me. How your descendants are going to be. I mean, and so it was like the same thing repeated in chapter 17 as was said before. 16 and 15. Chapter 15 was when the covenant was first given, and here we are in 17 talking about another covenant. And it's the same covenant, really. I mean, just with more details. And so here we are now in 18, talking about the same covenant and basically the same story, just in a different way. And then add on the whole Sodom and Gomorrah thing. Also, it's really, the other big thing that, when you read chapter 18 is, what was it about these three people that made Abraham immediately treat them as if they were the Lord or God? Like, how would he have known who they were? Like, were they glowing? Were they floating? Did they have wings? What was it that caused him to know who they were? Now, having read the whole chapter 18, to me, there's an easy answer to that, to me, and you can entertain it. How else would Abraham know who it was unless he had seen them before? Well, how could he have seen them before? Well, one of them, as it's pointed out toward the end of 18, was the Lord, because the Lord stayed back while the other two went ahead. Right? And I submitted to you earlier that Melchizedek was actually Jesus, or who is actually Jesus, who Abraham met and paid his tithe to. So, if Melchizedek is Jesus, the Lord, and Abraham seen him then it would make sense that if this is the Lord again, coming with two other people, that he would recognize him, and thus immediately, say what he needed to say. And also, Abraham wasn't surprised when they asked, where was your wife? Sarah. They knew her name and everything. So, he wasn't, and it didn't say he was surprised by that. And why would he be if this was somebody he had already seen before, already met before? Just something to think about. Um, so so here we are, chapter 19, finally getting to something very, very interesting. So I'll go ahead and stop it here at 10 minutes. And oh, forgive me, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, almost 5 o'clock in the morning. But anyway.